This is Bone Chillers to disturb your dreams. Dare to join us? Click subscribe, ring the bell. But remember, we cannot guarantee your safety from the nightmares that await. Prepare to be thrilled, chilled, and filled with a sense of dread you'll find nowhere else. Welcome to the darkness. We've been waiting.
The rain brings predators. I never imagined my family camping trip would turn into a nightmare worthy of a horror vlog. As the youngest of the Harper clan, I always felt the urge to document our adventures, but this time, the camera in my hand captured something far more sinister than family banter and roasted marshmallows. It started as an ordinary weekend in the isolated woods, the kind of place where the canopy of trees blots out the sky and civilization feels like a distant memory. The first sign of trouble came with the rain. It wasn't just a drizzle, but a torrential downpour that seemed to rise from the very soul of the forest. That night, as we huddled in our tents, I heard it, distant laughter. Not the joyful kind, but something hollow, chilling. I convinced myself it was just the wind. But then, the shadows began their dance. Flitting past the canvas of our tents, they were like nothing I'd ever seen. I told myself I was imagining things. The next morning, my brother Alex was gone. His tent was open, his belongings scattered. We searched, called out his name, but the forest swallowed our cries, returning only eerie silence. Panic set in, but I kept filming, hoping to capture any clue that might explain his disappearance. As the days passed, one by one, my family vanished. Each disappearance was preceded by the same pattern, the laughter, the shadows, and then nothing, just an empty tent and the lingering scent of fear. I recorded everything, my camera becoming my only companion, my only hope of uncovering the truth. The footage was disturbing, glimpses of figures in the rain, thin and distorted like children but mutated by some unseen horror. They moved with a predatory grace, haunting the edges of my vision. I was convinced they were hunting us, picking us off one by one. But the real horror came when I reviewed the footage in a desperate search for clues. The children in the rain weren't just predators, they were communicating. Their twisted forms conveyed a message, a story hidden in their eerie dance. I pieced it together from the fragments of footage. The children were once like us, campers or hikers lost in these woods. But something within the forest had changed them, morphed them into these ghastly figures. They were trapped, bound to the rain and the shadows, and they were trying to tell us their story. I realized the deeper secret of the woods. It wasn't just a hunting ground for these mutated beings. It was a place of transformation, a realm where the rain didn't just nourish the earth but twisted life into grotesque parodies of itself. I knew then that I had to escape, to get this footage out to the world. But the forest had other plans. The rain intensified, and the laughter grew closer, more insistent. I could feel their presence surrounding me, the children of the rain, their hollow eyes pleading for release. In my final moments as I write this entry, I can hear them approaching. I've hidden the camera in a waterproof case, hoping someone will find it, will see the truth. The rain brings predators, but it also brings a curse, a dark secret that must be exposed. If you're watching this, please understand. The forest is alive, and its rain doesn't just bring life, it brings transformation, horror, and a never-ending cycle of predation. Beware the laughter in the rain, and remember my story. Remember the Harper family and the children who were once just like us. The screen flickers, the last image a blur of movement and rain, a final glimpse of the twisted children before darkness consumes everything. The camera, lying forgotten in the undergrowth, holds the only evidence of the terror that unfolded in the isolated woods. But the rain continues to fall, and somewhere in the depths of the forest, the laughter echoes, a haunting reminder that the predators are still waiting.
The forbidden experiment. I always believed that the boundaries of science were meant to be pushed, no matter the cost. This conviction led me to the isolated research facility, nestled in the heart of a desolate wasteland. Here, I dedicated myself to the ultimate quest: immortality. My breakthrough came in the form of alien medical equipment, unearthed from a site whose origins were as mysterious as the stars themselves. The day I activated the machine was the day I sealed my fate. The process was mesmerizing. Cells divided and a form took shape in the nutrient-rich solution. My clone, a perfect replica, was born not from nature, but from my unquenchable thirst for eternal life. At first, everything seemed a success. The clone mimicked my appearance and intelligence, but as days passed, subtle differences emerged. His eyes, once mirroring my own, now gleamed with an otherworldly hue. His movements became erratic, his speech laced with a language I could not comprehend. I soon realized that this language was not mere gibberish. It echoed the ancient dialects of the alien civilization whose technology I had so recklessly employed. The clone's behavior grew increasingly violent, as if driven by some primal ritualistic compulsion. It was then that I understood the horrifying truth. The cloning process had not just replicated my physical form, it had awakened an ancient alien consciousness within the clone. Nightmares plagued my sleep, visions of alien rituals, sacrifices, and a relentless pursuit of a twisted form of immortality. The facility, once a sanctuary of science, became a prison. Each corridor echoed with the clone's haunting chants, each room a potential trap. Desperation led me to scour the alien texts, trying to find a solution, a way to undo what I had done. But the clone was always one step ahead, as if it could sense my every move. It wasn't just a clone anymore, it was a vessel for something ancient and malevolent. One night, the inevitable confrontation occurred. The clone, adorned in bizarre ceremonial attire, confronted me in the lab. Its eyes, now completely alien, bore into mine. It spoke in that haunting language, and though I did not understand the words, the intent was clear. It sought to complete its ritual, with me as the final sacrifice. In that moment, I realized that my pursuit of immortality had been nothing but hubris. I had unleashed a horror that was never meant to walk this earth. With every ounce of courage I could muster, I fought back, using every tool and piece of equipment at my disposal. The struggle was brutal. The clone, imbued with otherworldly strength and knowledge, seemed invincible. But in the end, it was the alien technology that proved to be its undoing. In a desperate move, I reconfigured the cloning machine into a weapon, reversing the process that had brought this nightmare into existence. The clone screamed in a cacophony of unearthly sounds as it began to deteriorate, its form becoming unstable. But as it disintegrated, it reached out to me, its touch burning my skin, searing not just flesh, but soul. When it was over, I collapsed, surrounded by the remnants of my folly. The facility was silent, the horror seemingly at an end. But the scars remained, both physical and psychological. I knew then that some boundaries were never meant to be crossed. As I write this, I can't help but wonder if the nightmare is truly over. Sometimes, in the dark, isolated corners of the facility, I hear whispers in that alien tongue, and I am reminded that the price of immortality is often far greater than one is willing to pay. The forbidden experiment was not just a failure, it was a warning that some secrets are best left undiscovered, some doors best left unopened. And as I continue my isolated existence in this facility, haunted by the memories and the ever-present fear of what might still lurk within its walls, I am forever reminded of the cost of my hubris. The Forgotten Colony. The humid air clung to my skin like a second layer as I stepped into the dilapidated neighborhood of what locals called the Forgotten Colony, a slum on the outskirts of a small Louisiana town. As a social worker, I'd seen my share of poverty, but nothing quite like this. Houses crumbling, streets littered with debris, a sense of despair hanging thick in the air. I was there to help the children, to offer them a lifeline out of this desolation. But my first night in the colony changed everything. I saw them, the children with eyes that glowed like bioluminescent creatures under the moonlight. It was unsettling, yet mesmerizing. I initially thought it was a trick of the light or a reflection of some hidden street lamp, but as I looked closer, I realized it was real. Their eyes glowed with an eerie, unnatural light. Curiosity overpowered my initial fear, driving me to uncover the truth. My investigation led me to an old secluded shack at the colony's edge. Inside I found what I never could have imagined, alien technology far beyond our understanding. It was a hidden world of strange devices, glowing symbols, and holographic maps of distant galaxies. As I delved deeper, I uncovered the horrifying truth. These children were the first wave of an alien colonization, sent to Earth's poorest regions to grow in numbers unnoticed. They were being transformed, their human essence slowly replaced by something otherworldly. The aliens had chosen these forgotten places because they knew no one would look closely, no one would care about the fate of slum children. Anger and determination surged within me. I couldn't let this happen. These children, already victims of poverty and neglect, were now pawns in an extraterrestrial scheme. I had to save them, to protect them from a fate they didn't choose. But the task was daunting. The alien technology was beyond my understanding, and the children were changing more each day. Their behavior became erratic, their speech laced with a language I couldn't recognize, and their eyes, those glowing eyes, seemed to pierce into my very soul as if they knew what I was trying to do. I sought help from the few locals who would listen, but most were too frightened or disillusioned to care. The world had forgotten about them, and they had lost hope in anything changing. But there were a brave few, who believed in my cause and joined me in my fight. We worked together, learning to manipulate the alien technology, trying to find a way to reverse the transformation. It was a race against time as the children's human features faded with each passing day. I remember the night we finally made a breakthrough, a device we believed could restore their humanity. The night was tense as we gathered the children, their glowing eyes watching us with a mix of curiosity and suspicion. I explained to them what we were trying to do, how we wanted to save them from a life not their own. Some resisted, scared of losing the only identity they had come to know. But others, deep down, yearned to be free, to be human again. The device hummed to life, its light bathing the children in a warm glow. One by one, their eyes began to lose their eerie luminance, returning to normal. Cheers erupted among us, tears of joy and relief flowing freely. But our celebration was short-lived. The aliens, sensing the disruption to their plan, descended upon the colony. A battle ensued, unlike any I had ever seen, a clash of human determination against alien might. We fought with everything we had, protecting the children, defending our newfound hope. In the chaos, I remember looking into the eyes of one of the children now free of the alien influence. There was fear, but also gratitude and a new sense of life. It was that look that gave me the strength to keep fighting. The battle was fierce, but in the end, we prevailed. The aliens retreated, realizing perhaps that the human spirit was stronger than they had anticipated. The children were safe, their humanity restored. As dawn broke, casting a new light over the forgotten colony, I looked around at the faces of those we had saved. Their eyes, once glowing with an otherworldly light, now shone with the simple, beautiful light of human life. The colony was still a place of poverty and hardship, but now there was a glimmer of hope. We had not only saved these children from an extraterrestrial fate, but also reminded the world of their existence. They were no longer forgotten, no longer just pawns in a cosmic game. I left the colony changed. I had come to help the poor, the neglected, but in the end, they had helped me see the true resilience of the human spirit. The forgotten colony remained, a stark reminder of our world's harsh realities, but now it stood as a testament to our ability to fight, to protect, and to reclaim our destiny, no matter the odds. As I drove away, I glanced back one last time, the morning sun reflecting in the eyes of the children playing in the streets. They were just kids, innocent and full of life, a powerful reminder of what we had fought for, and what we must continue to fight for. Fain Bound, I've spent my life chasing shadows, delving into the inexplicable and the macabre. As a paranormal investigator in a world where the line between the natural and supernatural has blurred, I've seen things that would make the bravest souls falter. But nothing prepared me for the case of the woman with the crawling veins. It began with a rumor, a whisper, in the dark corners of the city. They spoke of an Asian woman, stunning yet terrifying, living in a sterile, futuristic apartment where the walls were more like screens displaying whatever scenery she fancied. They said she was possessed by something ancient, something dark. They called her Fain Bound. I remember the evening I first saw her. Her apartment was bathed in artificial sunlight, a stark contrast to the gloomy streets below. She sat calmly, her eyes reflecting a depth of knowledge that seemed impossible for her youthful appearance. As I introduced myself, her lips curled into a knowing smile, and I felt a chill run down my spine. I asked her questions, treading cautiously around the subject of her rumored possession. She answered with a calmness that belied the growing tension in the room. It was then I noticed them, the black veins like a network of shadows crawling slowly under her skin. My heart raced as I realized the stories were true. With each question, the veins moved faster, slithering like serpents beneath her porcelain skin. The room grew colder, the artificial sunlight dimming as if a cloud had passed overhead. I shivered, not just from the cold, but from the realization that I was in the presence of something otherworldly. Her smile widened, and there was a malicious glint in her eyes. I felt like prey, trapped in the gaze of a predator. The temperature dropped further, my breath turning to mist in the air. The veins pulsed with a life of their own, a grotesque display of her affliction. I should have left then, but my curiosity, my need to understand, rooted me to the spot. I pressed on, asking about the entity that dwelled within her. Her voice was a whisper, yet it filled the room, echoing with a resonance that seemed to come from another world. She spoke of an ancient spirit, one that had wandered the earth for centuries, seeking hosts to inhabit. It fed on fear, on the darkness within human souls, and it had found a willing vessel in her, a companion in her loneliness. As she spoke, the veins writhed faster, a black tide rising beneath her skin. The room was now an icebox, my fingers numb and my breath a fog before me. Her smile was no longer human, but a grotesque caricature of joy. It was then I realized the true horror of my situation. The entity wasn't just content with her, it was seeking a new host, me. I could feel its hunger, a palpable desire in the air. It wanted out, it wanted more. I stood up, my body stiff from the cold and fear. I needed to escape, to get away from this malevolent force. But as I moved, she laughed, a sound that chilled me to my core. The veins surged, a black flood rushing beneath her skin. I don't remember how I got out of the apartment. My memories are a blur of fear and desperation. I stumbled into the streets, the night air a welcome relief from the oppressive cold of her home. I've never returned to that place. I've never seen her again. But sometimes, when the night is still and the darkness presses in, I feel a chill, and I wonder if the entity is still out there, seeking, hungering, and I know that my encounter with the Fain Bound was not the end, but perhaps just the beginning of a darker, more terrifying chapter. The Sin Eater's Legacy. In the heart of 19th century England, where faith and superstition wove a complex tapestry, I found myself in the quaint village of Eldritch Hollow. Freshly ordained, young, and brimming with divine purpose, I was appointed as the priest of St. Mary's, a church as ancient as the hills that cradled our village. Its walls, steeped in whispered prayers and silent cries, were my sanctuary. But, as I was soon to learn, they also harboured shadows that hungered for the light. Night after night, as the village slept, an old man visited the church. He was a peculiar sight, his body frail and decaying, yet his eyes sparkled with an unnerving liveliness. He never sought absolution during the day, only when the moon held court in the sky. We would sit at a small table near the altar, a lone candle flickering between us, casting long shadows that danced like spectres. He gripped the candle as if it were a lifeline, its flame reflecting in his eyes, and began confessing. His sins were not extraordinary: petty thefts, lies, the occasional burst of anger. Yet there was something unsettling in his demeanor, a heaviness that seemed to stretch far beyond his years. One night, compelled by a force I couldn't understand, I reached out and touched his hand. The moment our skin met, a torrent of psychic imagery assaulted my senses. It was as if I had plunged into a sea of memories, not my own. I saw him, the old man, in different eras, different guises, but always with those same lively eyes. He was a sin-eater, a bearer of burdens, a forgotten relic of a pagan past. I witnessed him sitting beside deathbeds, consuming the ritualistic meals that symbolized the sins of the dying. With each bite, he absorbed their transgressions, their regrets, their darkness. Centuries of sin, layers upon layers of human frailty and vice, had seeped into his soul. As the vision ended, I reeled back, gasping for air. The old man simply watched, a knowing sorrow in his gaze. "Father," he whispered, his voice a mere echo, "I am tired. I've carried these sins for so long, I need to pass them on before I can finally rest." But I was a man of God. I could not, would not, bear the weight of sins not confessed to God. I prayed, fasted, and sought guidance from the Scriptures. Yet the burden was not mine to refuse. The sins had already latched onto my soul. Strange occurrences began to unfold. Shadows lurked in the corners of my eyes. Whispers echoed in the stillness of the church, and my dreams became a panorama of horrors, a parade of the old man's sin-soaked life. People in the village started to distance themselves, as if sensing the darkness that now clung to me. My faith, once a beacon of light, flickered in the face of this relentless onslaught. I questioned everything I believed in, every doctrine I had preached. The church, my once cherished haven, felt like a prison, its walls echoing with the sins of centuries. In desperation, I sought the old man, but he was nowhere to be found. The villagers, when questioned, denied ever seeing such a person. I was alone, adrift in a sea of sin that was not my own. One fateful night, as I knelt at the altar, grappling with my crumbling sanity, I heard a voice. It was not the old man's, but something ancient and indescribable. It offered a way out, a chance to rid myself of the sins, but at a price so horrific it chilled my soul. The church trembled as I made my choice. I would not pass the burden on, as the old man had done to me. I would end the legacy. With every ounce of faith I had left, I confronted the shadows, the whispers, the sins. I offered myself as a vessel, a final resting place for the centuries of darkness. As dawn broke, the church was silent. The shadows had receded, the whispers had faded, and the oppressive weight on my soul had lifted. I was free, but not unscathed. The ordeal had taken its toll on me, both physically and spiritually. Years have passed since that night. I am no longer the priest of St. Mary's. I left Eldritch Hollow, leaving behind the legacy of the Sin-Eater. But sometimes, in the dead of night, I still hear whispers, remnants of the sins that once threatened to consume me. They are a reminder of the fragile line between faith and folly, and of the legacy I chose not to continue. The Sin-Eater's legacy lives on, not as a burden passed from soul to soul, but as a tale of sacrifice and redemption. It is a testament to the enduring power of faith, even in the darkest of times. And as long as it is remembered, perhaps others will find the strength to confront their own shadows without fear or falter.
Thank you for watching, and remember, the darkness awaits. Until our paths cross again, stay fearful and stay subscribed.